From the dazzling heights of Hollywood fame to the profound sorrow of personal loss, Sandra Bullock's life has been marked by both incredible triumph and unimaginable tragedy. While we know her as the beloved star of The Blind Side, Gravity, and Miss Congeniality, her journey is far from a fairy tale. In the past few years, Sandra has faced one of the most heartbreaking losses of her life, one that has rocked her to her core. What happened to the woman who seemed to have it all? Join me as we dive deep into Sandra Bullock's heartbreaking journey, filled with devastating losses, hard-won healing, and the unyielding spirit that has carried her through it all. Sandra Annette Bullock was born on 26th of July, 1964, in Arlington, Virginia, to a military contractor father and a voice teacher mother. Growing up in a family that was always on the move due to her father's job, Sandra developed a resilience and adaptability that would serve her well later in life. She found solace in the arts, developing a passion for acting early on, and after years of small roles on television and in films, she hit the big time with Speed in 1994. Sandra became the Hollywood sweetheart, her relatable personality and sharp wit earning her a spot in audiences' hearts across the world. Her career flourished, and Sandra was soon known for her roles in iconic films like Miss Congeniality and The Proposal. By the late 90s and early 2000s, Sandra was one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. But the pressures of fame were always there, lurking beneath the surface. And while the public saw her as a beacon of success and charm, Sandra's personal life was more complicated. In 2005, Sandra married Jesse James, the motorcycle mogul. Their relationship, seemingly an unlikely pairing of a Hollywood starlet and a tattooed bad boy, quickly became the subject of media obsession. But just as Sandra was on top of her career, winning the Academy Award for The Blind Side, in 2010, her personal life was shattered by betrayal. Jesse James was caught in a highly publicized infidelity scandal, leaving Sandra devastated. The pain of the betrayal was magnified by the timing. It came right as Sandra reached the pinnacle of her career. She soon filed for divorce, retreating from the public eye to process her heartbreak. For many, this marked the beginning of a series of losses Sandra would face, but it wasn't the worst blow. In the aftermath of her divorce, Sandra began focusing on healing and rebuilding her life. In 2010, she made a life-changing decision to adopt a son, Louis, a gesture that helped fill the void left by personal pain. Louis brought a new sense of purpose to Sandra's life, and she embraced motherhood with the same care and devotion she had shown her career. Despite the ongoing challenges, Sandra slowly found peace again, rebuilding her happiness through her son and a renewed focus on what truly mattered. But just as she was finding joy again, another painful chapter unfolded. In 2015, Sandra Bullock faced a loss that would forever alter the course of her life: the death of her mother, Helga Bullock. While Sandra had always been open about her close relationship with her mother, Helga's passing marked the end of an era for the actress. Helga had been Sandra's rock, her confidant, and her greatest supporter throughout her career. From the moment Sandra decided to pursue acting, her mother was there, offering unwavering encouragement and helping her navigate the challenges that came with fame. Helga Bullock wasn't just a mother to Sandra, she was her guiding light. Born in Germany, Helga had moved to the United States before Sandra was born, and she had a deep love for the arts. She was a voice teacher and a big influence on Sandra's creative drive. Sandra often spoke about how much her mother's teachings shaped her understanding of performance and storytelling. Helga had always been proud of Sandra, but she never tried to push her into fame. Instead, she allowed her to find her own path, offering advice when needed, but respecting Sandra's autonomy. However, as Sandra's career began to flourish, it wasn't just the lights of Hollywood that she leaned on. Helga was there to remind her of who she was when the fame became overwhelming. In interviews, Sandra would often refer to her mother's quiet strength and the grounded wisdom she had instilled in her. Helga was her safe space, the one person Sandra could always turn to when the world around her seemed to spin too fast. Helga was diagnosed with a serious illness, though the exact details of her condition were kept private. It was clear, however, that Sandra's focus shifted in a profound way during that period. She had always been dedicated to her work, but with her mother's health in decline, she found herself dividing her time between her acting career and caring for the woman who had supported her throughout her life. Sandra's role as a daughter became her priority. She wanted to be there for Helga, just as Helga had always been there for her. Sadly, despite Sandra's best efforts, Helga's condition worsened, and in 2015, she passed away. Sandra was heartbroken. In interviews following her mother's death, Sandra spoke candidly about the depth of her grief. She described the loss as unimaginable, admitting that she wasn't sure how to move forward without the woman who had been such a central figure in her life. The grief was consuming. Even with her career successes, Sandra found herself emotionally drained, her joy stifled by the weight of her mother's absence. This loss was particularly painful because Sandra had lost someone who not only shaped her as a person, but had also played a crucial role in the success of her career. Sandra was known for being fiercely independent, but at her core, she was deeply connected to her mother. Helga had provided both emotional and practical support for Sandra, especially during the years when Sandra was first building her career. She had been there to help guide her through tough decisions, whether they were related to work or personal matters. Losing her mother meant losing that source of comfort and guidance, leaving Sandra to navigate the world on her own. Even though Sandra had her son, Louis, and later her daughter, Layla, the loss of her mother was a grief that lingered. In moments of reflection, Sandra would admit that she couldn't quite shake the feeling of wanting to pick up the phone to call Helga and ask for advice, to hear her comforting voice once more. The emotional burden of losing her mother weighed heavily on her for years, even as she continued to juggle her career and her role as a mother herself. This loss also served as a reminder of Sandra's humanity, despite her public persona. It showed that even the most successful individuals can face deep, personal pain. For Sandra, grief wasn't just an emotional experience, it was a physical one. Losing her mother was not something she could easily compartmentalize or move on from. It took years for her to find a semblance of peace after Helga's passing, and even then, the absence of her mother remained a shadow in the background of Sandra's life. Sandra would later speak about the importance of acknowledging her grief and allowing herself to feel the pain, instead of trying to hide it behind her public image. She realized that healing was a process, one that required time, support, and a willingness to embrace the emotions that came with losing someone so significant. Sandra's experience with grief became something she could use to connect with others, reminding her fans and those around her that it's okay to not have everything together, even when the world expects you to. The loss of her mother, Helga, was a deep and lasting wound in Sandra's life, one that she would carry with her forever. But it was also a turning point. Sandra began to find strength in the memories of her mother, choosing to live in a way that would honor Helga's legacy of kindness and love. This loss may have been one of the hardest she'd ever experienced, but it also pushed Sandra to look inward, to reflect on her own life, and to cherish the moments with the people she loved most. But in 2023, Sandra was struck by the most heartbreaking loss of all: the untimely death of her longtime partner, Bryan Randall. Bryan, a photographer whom Sandra had been with since 2015, had become her rock. After years of heartache and disappointment, Bryan was a steady, loving presence in Sandra's life, and together they created a blended family with her two children, Louis and Layla. Bryan, who had been battling a private illness, passed away in August 2023, leaving Sandra utterly devastated. This loss was not just the death of a partner, but the loss of someone who had truly become her soulmate, a man who had brought light and joy back into her life after so much darkness. For Sandra, Bryan wasn't just her romantic partner. He was the person who gave her the stability and love she had longed for after her painful marriage to Jesse James and the loss of her mother. Though they kept their relationship largely private, Sandra's grief following Bryan's death was felt worldwide. She had been open about her deep love for him, and his passing sent shockwaves through those who knew them. The woman who had faced so much loss throughout her life was now confronted with the most devastating loss of all. The man she had hoped would stand by her side forever was gone. In the wake of Bryan's death, Sandra has been quietly grieving, often staying out of the public eye to process the pain. The immense sorrow she felt following his death was compounded by the fact that he had been the pillar of strength she had leaned on after the turmoil of her past. His death left a gaping hole in her heart, and the world has watched as Sandra has navigated this new chapter of profound grief. But Sandra, being the resilient woman that she is, hasn't allowed the crushing weight of her losses to define her. Though it's been incredibly difficult, she continues to find strength through her children, her friends, and her career. Sandra's commitment to her family and her ability to continue working despite her grief speaks to the indomitable strength that has become her trademark. Sandra Bullock's life has been a series of painful lessons, but through each loss, she has emerged stronger. She's faced betrayal, heartbreak, the loss of a mother, and now the loss of the man she loved deeply. Yet through it all, Sandra continues to stand tall, showing the world that even in the face of overwhelming grief, it's possible to keep moving forward. Her life story reminds us all that even when the darkest of storms seem to have no end, the light eventually finds its way back. Her journey is far from over, and though the pain may never fade, her ability to keep moving forward shows us what it truly means to persevere. Sandra Bullock's life has been marked by unimaginable loss, but her strength, resilience, and love for her family continue to shine through. Her story is one of heartache, healing, and the undying hope that, despite everything, life can still be beautiful. Thank you for watching. If Sandra's journey resonated with you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of perseverance and strength from the world's biggest stars.